This is brutal as we get a shocking update from NHL Insider Elliotte Friedman on Elias Pettersson's health going into the remainder of the season for the Vancouver Canucks. I'm going to break down this update from Elliotte Friedman, what this means for the Vancouver Canucks as they go into a stretch of must-win games, and the implications heading into next season. We're going to break down all this and more, and you're not going to want to miss that. Before we hop into that, if you're a part of the 61.2% that's not subscribed yet, and you're enjoying this daily Canucks content, make sure to go down below and hit that free subscribe button. It's completely free to hit, and we'll keep you up to date on everything to do around the Vancouver Canucks. But with that, we got to hop straight into the first topic today, where we did get an update from NHL Insider Elliotte Friedman on Elias Pettersson's injury and his health going into these must-win games for the Vancouver Canucks to get into the playoffs. Now, looking at this update, we did see from Elliotte Friedman, Pettersson has not given up hope on playing this year. But according to an unnamed source, it seems unlikely he will see any game actions in the final stretch of the year. Right now, at best, it's fair to say that is uncertain. Now, getting this update from Elliotte Friedman is not what Canucks fans want to see when the Vancouver Canucks are in a stretch of do-or-die games. Now, we know PD hasn't had the best season so far. We know he signed the big contract that kicked in this season, which doesn't help his case. But the biggest thing is Elias Pettersson has been the backbone of this team for a few seasons. 64 games, as I said, not a great stretch of games. 15 goals, 30 assists for 45 points. He's a -10 on the season. I don't like looking at plus-minus though. But 26 years old, PD is poised for a bounce back, and he was doing just that before his injury. Elias Pettersson, before his injury, was having a dominant stretch, and especially for what he's been doing this season. Looking at the last 5 games before getting hurt versus the New York Rangers, we see against the St. Louis Blues 2 assists. We see back-to-back games with an assist versus the Winnipeg Jets and the Utah Hockey Club versus Chicago, a goal and an assist. PD was catching fire over his last 5 games, over his last 10 games. He was finally finding his groove and getting back to what this team expected. Looking at the faceoff percentage on the side as well, over 50% in almost all these games as well. We know in the final game, only playing just under 8 minutes, it was 7 minutes and 50 seconds. PD was set to join this team and make a push for the playoffs. We know that didn't happen in either case, but the biggest thing with PD and PD being out, we know the lineup has been quite bad. Now this lineup, a lot of people have stepped up, and I will touch on a few of these guys shortly, but looking at the center depth without PD, without Hedl in this lineup, who is still in concussion protocol as well, the center depth has been less than ideal and quite bad for the most part. Pius Suter, Teddy Bluger, Aatu Räty, and Max Sasson. These guys have been holding it down, doing competitive games, scoring 5 goals in a period versus the Anaheim Ducks. But this is a team that was just inspired to make a Stanley Cup run again. We've seen it last season going to Game 7 versus the Edmonton Oilers. Gross. We don't need to talk about that. But this was a team that wanted to make a pushback. The biggest thing is they've dealt with so many injuries. They've went through so much adversity, losing their top-line center, trading JT Miller. Hedl, who came back in that trade, went out with a concussion. This team has been snake-bitten with injuries this year. PD has shown that once again. He is a part of the problem with all these injuries. And listen, I'm not going to say it's his fault. He did get injured, but people can't stop this. People can't expect it not to happen. But with PD out of the lineup, it does severely hurt the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, listen, looking at the scoring leaders of this team, a lot of guys have regressed a tiny bit. Listen, it's going to happen when you replace bodies within this lineup, when you bring in new faces, and when this team is not gelling at 100% because they couldn't get any chemistry going with these injuries. But looking at the scores of this team, Quinn Hughes, who's the best defenseman in the NHL, and I will not take slander or say that it's Cale Makar, because it's not. It's Quinn Hughes, 72 points in 63 games. That is our captain. He is the best player and the best defenseman in the league, the best player on the Canucks, of course. Looking at the other players on this team, Brock Boeser took a tiny bit of a step back. Connor Garland has been outstanding this year. Elias Pettersson, 45 points in those 64 games. You'd like to see that number jump up. Jake DeBrusk has been great when he's not streaky. This is a team that just really could not figure it out, and it's really showing with where they are currently in the standings. Now listen, looking at this report, and with Pettersson out, Fans, I want to ask you a question. Go ahead and leave a comment because I love reading through your comments, and we'll get into a special segment that we once did before. But looking at with Petey looking like he might not come back, with the Canucks just kind of fighting to get in a wild card spot, do you think it's best just to keep him out, let him just fully heal going into next season at 100%, or do you like to see him maybe try to rush back to make that final push? And listen, we'll get into the statistics on the making the playoffs, but right now, listen, looking at this Canucks team, it's very slim that they do end up making the playoffs. Right now, they are, 8 points behind the Minnesota Wilds with a game in hand, which is nice to see. The Canucks would pretty much have to win out their entire season with the remaining games going up against Minnesota actually this week as well. But Minnesota would also have to lose out on pretty much all these games. And listen, it's not showing likely that this will happen. But listen, right now the Canucks don't have a 0% chance according to Money Puck. As you can see, it's 0.2% chance. It's not 0.0. So there is a 0.2% chance the Canucks do make it. But listen, with the Wild having just about a 92%, St. Louis Blues going on a 12-game win streak, which is just ridiculous and no one expected. This Canucks team really didn't get the good end of things. Listen, 0.2%, as I said, not a 0, but it's not looking great for this team at the moment. But the future does look solid for this team, and we will touch on this in an episode later. But listen, Canucks fans, I know things are not great. I know the world's falling pretty much right now with the Canucks missing the playoffs, feeling like a repeat of just year after year. Well, minus last year when it felt quite good having this team in the playoffs in the second round. But this is a team that has a bright future. And listen, as I said, we'll touch on this in another episode at some point. But looking at this team, a lot of this core is locked up going into next season. Listen, Derek Forbort's a piece that would be nice to see come back on a cheap contract. He's had stability on this fourth line as a veteran presence coming in on this team. Noah Juleson, and listen, I did a video talking about Noah Juleson, and I didn't really chirp him, but it also was his birthday, so I kind of feel bad, so happy belated to you. But with Juleson probably leaving, we know there's a lot of young defensemen on this team that have been playing great. Listen, DPD just scored his first NHL goal just a game or two before. We know Victor Mancini is looking like a workhorse at the young age of 22 as well, a right-handed shot. Tom Willander is a piece that's going to come over. We know the goaltenders are locked up for at least next year. Thatcher Demko's future is kind of up in the air. But also looking at the forwards, there's a lot of names on this list that are guys that are going to be back next season. Listen, Brock Boeser and Pius Suter are going to be UFAs at the end of the season. That is something that needs to be addressed and something the Canucks are going to figure out. Atu Ratu's an RFA, but listen, he's been great. He actually has, 7, 8, 9 goals, something like that, somewhere under 10 for the Canucks this year, but still young and looking good. Canucks fans, listen, as I said, the chances of them making the playoffs are near to none at this point. But what is your thoughts on this team? They still have a young team. They have a young defensive core, reshaped and looking a lot better than it did in the previous years, and especially if you're looking back to the Benning era. This looks awesome compared to that. They still have a forward group that still has young pieces. Listen, Petey's still young, Heedle's still young. This is a team that still has a lot of the core players just on the roster for the next few seasons, and they can still go out and sign some players in the free agency. But what is your guys' thoughts on this? Go down and leave a comment below. And listen, speaking on comments, we're going to hop into comment of the day. And I know it's been quite some time. If you're a fan of the show and you've been here for a while, you know this. But listen, it is back. Comment of the day comes from Matthew Smith. And listen, Matthew, I love this comment. I'm not going to read the full thing. Pause if you want to read it. Players I hope the Canucks take a good look at in the draft. He goes down and lists about 10 guys that he really likes, and a lot of these guys are on my draft board, and some players that I wish the Canucks would go after. He goes down and says the Canucks have their first, second, and likely first of the third round via San Jose, where they got in the Carson Soucy trade. Fourth round pick from Ottawa as well. They've done a great job going out and drafting players in the third rounds. DPD was there, Sawyer Minio, Riley Patterson, Anthony Romani. These guys were great pickups, and there's a lot of picks for the Canucks to make this year, as I believe they have all 7 going into this draft. So if you want to go down and leave a comment on who you hope the Canucks draft, I would love to read through it, because listen, I don't know every player in this draft, and I love finding hidden gems. So if you guys want to go down and leave a comment, maybe it's someone on this list, maybe it's someone we didn't even talk about, go down and leave a comment down below. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back, not with Elliotte Friedman, but we'll be back for another episode. And like I said, go down and leave a comment, subscribe, share this with your friends, leave a like. If you enjoy the Canucks, we have content coming out on them constantly. You're not going to want to miss it, but I've been your host, Mark Pye, and take care.